Imagine yourself in this situation. This film tells the story of a man who, on the day of his friend's wedding, accidentally becomes trapped in a repeating time loop. After falling asleep and completing a 24-hour cycle, he wakes up to find himself reliving the same day all over again, forced to go through identical events. Each day, he can do whatever he wants, even indulge in reckless or depraved acts, such as killing someone or overdosing on drugs. None of it matters. At the end of every day, he always wakes up back at the same morning, as if nothing ever happened. Every day is the wedding day, forever.
Are you being a dick to the bartender? What do you say, man? You want to dance a little bit?
You're right. Got him.
The story begins with Nyles, who wakes up suddenly after dreaming of an earthquake in the desert. After going through his usual morning routine, Nyles doesn't have time to finish his excavation work. They need to rush off to attend a wedding. He tries to ease his pain quickly, but it seems his girlfriend has lost the wedding ring. After a brief argument, Nyles jokingly tells Misty to just kill him and end his misery. But Misty insists they put their fights aside for today. It's Tala and Abe's special day, and nothing should ruin their wedding. Later that day, November 9th, the wedding takes place. Indifferent to everything, Nyles lounges by the pool, drinking beer and floating aimlessly. He has lost track of what day or month it even is. Wearing a Hawaiian shirt, he wanders into the sacred ceremony, beer still in hand, and casually toasts the couple, wishing them happiness. Finally, Tala and Abe exchange vows, kiss, and are officially married. Meanwhile, Misty delivers an awkward and embarrassing speech. Sarah, the bride's older sister and maid of honor, orders the strongest drink the bartender can make. When Misty finishes, she calls on Sarah to give her own toast, but Sarah is far too drunk to recite the speech she prepared. Before she can be forced into it, Nyles steps in, stealing the microphone from Misty with his effortless charm. Though just another guest with no real connection to the couple, he begins a surprisingly heartfelt speech about love, speaking to Sarah as if he's known her for years. After raising a glass to the bride and groom, Nyles has accomplished his mission, saving Sarah from public humiliation. Later, during the dancing, Sarah refuses an invitation from another groomsman. Moments after, Nyles predicts the movements of the guests with uncanny precision, pulling off a perfectly synchronized, dazzling dance that catches everyone's attention, especially Sarah's. Then he vanishes into the crowd, leaving her intrigued and wanting more. When Sarah finds him, Nyles breaks the ice by correctly guessing the scent of her unique perfume, a bold first move that gets him halfway to winning her over. A guest hugs Nyles, thanking him for his beautiful speech. Nyles then invites Sarah to slip away somewhere private so they can talk, but she declines. She knows Misty would hardly appreciate finding her boyfriend alone with the bride's sister. Nyles, however, doesn't seem worried. He knows Misty won't care because she's already cheating on him. Sarah tells Nyles to stop her from eating more sushi, but he's certain that in any universe, the two of them are destined to end up together. Out of sympathy, Sarah admits her family sees her as a lazy, drunken mess who sleeps with strangers. Nyles relates to her pain, and soon, nothing stands between them. Their flirtation turns into passion, and they begin making love. As they start to undress, a sudden gunshot rings out. He runs, cursing Roy's name as another bullet hits him. Despite his injuries, he manages to escape and hide, but Roy always finds him eventually. Desperate, he stumbles toward a strange glowing cave and disappears into it, deepening the mystery. Wounded, he drags himself to the cave's entrance, only to realize Sarah has followed him there. He begs her not to go inside, but moments later, she's pulled into the cave as well, and time resets. Once again, it's November 9th, the wedding day of Tala and Abe. As Nyles floats lazily in the pool, drink in hand, he notices Sarah storming toward him, furious and confused. She has no idea what's happened, only that she too has been pulled into the same bizarre time loop. Sarah blames Nyles for what's happened. After he was shot, she had gone into the cave to check if he was alive, but now both of them are trapped in the same time loop. Once again, she wakes up on the morning of her sister's wedding, reliving the exact same day. When she tries to explain the situation to her father, Howard, He has no idea what she's talking about and assumes she's high again. At first, Sarah convinces herself that everything from last night was just a dream. But when she sees Nyles acting carefree as ever, she realizes the nightmare is real and storms over to confront him. Their argument escalates quickly. Tala, the bride, approaches to see what's going on with her sister, but chaos erupts, and in a freak accident, Tala loses her 3 front teeth. Sarah becomes certain this can't be real. Later, Sarah demands the truth from Nyles. He explains that, technically speaking, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and every day after that are all the same day. Today, they're stuck in an endless temporal loop with no escape. Sarah is bewildered, but at least there's one silver lining. By tomorrow morning, Tala's teeth will be back to normal, as if nothing ever happened. Determined to break free, Sarah returns to the scene of the previous night, hoping to find the cave and escape this nightmare. She spends hours searching but can't locate the entrance. Nyles appears, offering her a cold beer and tells her to wait. Sarah doesn't understand what he means until he demonstrates, dramatically, how a daily afternoon earthquake opens the cave entrance. He warns her that entering it won't help. No matter what, she'll just wake up at the start of the same day again. Sleeping resets everything. Going into the cave is pointless, though yes, when she wakes up, Tala's teeth will be fine and the accident will never have happened. Nyles is right. Sarah is still stuck on November 9th. Terrified, she flees the wedding grounds in panic while Nyles, completely accustomed to the cycle, dives into the pool to start his day as usual. Meanwhile, Sarah fills up her gas tank and speeds home, leaving behind only a note apologizing for missing her sister's wedding. Nyles assumes she's just scared and will eventually return. The wedding unfolds as always, but this time, for the first time, Sarah isn't there. Fighting to stay awake, Sarah drives through the night and finally reaches home. She resists sleep for hours, but exhaustion wins and she passes out. When she opens her eyes, she's back at the wedding day again. Furious, she storms to Nyles's room, confronts him in front of Misty, and demands they leave the wedding together. Nyles explains that he's already tried every possible way to break the loop, but nothing works. Even death or suicide only resets everything. Sarah insists on testing that theory. Nyles reluctantly agrees to a quick death, warning her that while they never truly die, the pain always feels real. He urges her to calm down and accept the situation, to learn to enjoy life inside the loop. While playing darts later, Sarah notices Nyles flinch at the mention of being shot by an arrow, prompting him to reveal more about Roy, the man who attacked him. Roy, it turns out, was one of the wedding guests and a relative of the groom. Their story goes back to the early days of Nyles's entrapment in the loop. One night, Nyles met Roy by chance, and the two decided to party together. Roy suspected the sleazy officiant at the ceremony was carrying a stash of heavenly salt, a powerful drug. Nyles took some from him, and the two spent the night in wild celebration. Roy called it the best night of his life and said he wished he could live that day forever. Wanting to make his wish come true, Nyles led Roy to the cave, but at the last moment regretted it. Still, he couldn't stop Roy from entering. That mistake haunted him.
Roy didn't handle eternal repetition well. Instead, he turned vengeful, hunting and torturing Nyles for trapping him in this nightmare. It wasn't what he'd wanted. Fortunately, Roy lives in another city and wakes up there each day, so he only shows up occasionally to torment Nyles. Prone to rage, Roy kills him in inventive ways just to make him suffer. That's why Nyles swore never to drag anyone else into this hell again. Sarah believes she must confront Roy and settle things once and for all. She can't keep running forever. But Nyles disagrees. Thanks to the infinite loop, he can avoid Roy for eternity if he chooses. Over countless repetitions of this wedding day, Nyles has slept with various people and indulged in every pleasure imaginable, yet he has never once tried to seduce Sarah, assuring her that she was never exploited. Sarah, in turn, avoids talking about the details of her own encounters with him. During one of their conversations, Sarah concludes that perhaps the only way out of the time loop is through a great act of sacrifice, something powerful enough to alter fate itself. At the wedding ceremony, just before Tala says "I do" to Abe, Sarah bursts out a devastating secret and storms out. The ground shakes once again, and Tala bursts into tears as chaos ensues. Nyles rushes after Sarah into the cave. She refuses to tell him what she said, but wishes him luck, convinced that by tomorrow, she'll finally break free from the loop. She has planned everything carefully and asks Nyles to stop her future self from entering the cave if he ever wakes up without her. Nyles wishes her luck, but when he next wakes up, Sarah is still there. She confesses it didn't work. She mockingly repeats Misty's familiar lines about cheating, showing she's had the same conversation with Nyles countless times before. He takes her to a nearby house, one belonging to a family that's supposed to return tomorrow, a tomorrow that will never come. There, they live without consequence, doing whatever they please, shooting guns, reckless driving, endless drinking. Every morning, Sarah wakes up with the same sadness. Being stuck in an infinite loop of a good day doesn't seem so bad after all. One night, they camp under the stars in the desert and talk about the meaning of the future. Sarah confesses she had a failed marriage 2 years ago, a relationship she knew was doomed from the start but went through with anyway. When she asks Nyles about his past, he admits he can barely remember it. Maybe it's the years he's spent trapped here, or maybe it's the powerful hallucinogenic mushrooms they've taken that night. Either way, he dodges the question, changing the subject. When a pair of rare dinosaurs suddenly appear before them, the conversation shifts completely. Hand in hand, they watch in awe, lost in the beauty of their shared vision. That night, they make love, fully, deeply, and without fear. The next morning, both wake up smiling, but Sarah's joy turns to horror when she realizes she always wakes up in Abe's bed, the groom's. Abe urges her to slip out before anyone sees. Every day she wakes to the same crushing guilt of betraying her sister. The shame eats away at her, making it impossible to truly enjoy her time with Nyles. Nyles, still glowing from the previous night, tells her how happy he is, that sleeping with her felt new, real, and beautiful. But Sarah barely responds. Her mind is elsewhere. She admits she can't stand waking up to the same day anymore. Nyles insists there's no way out, though at least they can fall asleep together each night. Sarah brushes off his comfort and avoids the subject, because now, flashing lights appear in the distance. A police car is chasing them. Nyles assumes it's Roy again. Nyles' suspicion proves right. Roy has returned for his usual revenge. Sarah blames Nyles, insisting it's his fault she's stuck in this endless loop. If she hadn't agreed to sleep with him in the desert, she might still have her normal life. Nyles admits that he has slept with her thousands of times before, explaining that winning her over was easy after a silly speech. Every day had been restarting endlessly, but now things are different because Sarah became part of it, and he hadn't wanted her to know any of it at all. Sarah is disgusted with herself for being so easily available, so she decides to cut ties with Nyles and focus entirely on finding a way out of this cursed day.
When Nyles wakes up, he searches everywhere for Sarah, but she's gone. Howard had gone to her room earlier but found no one there. Nyles looks all over town but can't find her anywhere. It seems Sarah left the city before he woke up. He eventually gives up hope until before the wedding ceremony begins. Everyone gathers in Abe's room, and Nyles notices that the groom's pillow carries the scent of Sarah's perfume. Realizing what that means, he deduces that Sarah spent the previous night in Abe's room. They had slept together. According to an old tradition, the groom must not sleep beside his bride on the night before their wedding. Enraged, Nyles exposes Abe's infidelity in front of all the guests. Now, Nyles finally understands why Sarah hates herself so deeply, because she's forced to wake up every morning reliving the moment of her own mistake. The wedding party falls apart as Abe attacks Nyles, but it's pointless. Tomorrow, everyone will have forgotten it all anyway. Nyles confesses that he has fallen in love with Sarah and misses her terribly, but she clearly wants nothing to do with him. It becomes a nightmare for Nyles, waking up each day to Misty's shrill voice, knowing Sarah is gone forever and he'll never find her again. After separating from Nyles, Sarah confronts Abe in the bathroom, threatening him and saying the night they spent together should never have happened. She tells him that they're both garbage, but she has decided not to be a bad person anymore. From that moment, Sarah dedicated all her time to finding a way out of the time loop. She starts taking online quantum physics courses to understand how the cave functions. She runs countless experiments and consults various professors until she herself becomes a quantum science expert. Eventually, she tests her theory on a goat, hoping it will lead her to an escape from this endless day.
For the first time, Nyles wakes up to the sound of Sarah's voice and sees her standing right in front of him. He immediately apologizes for lying to her and confesses that he's deeply, hopelessly in love. He pleads with her not to leave him again, admitting that life without her has been unbearable. Sarah thanks him for his honesty and tells him she's finally found a way out of the time loop. If they can blow themselves up at the exact moment they're pulled into the cave, there's a chance they can escape the loop. It might send them to any random point in time, but it's worth the risk because Sarah already tested the theory on a goat. She detonated it inside the cave and the goat vanished, something that's never happened before within the repeating timeline. Nyles, skeptical, asks Sarah to run a few more tests, but Sarah quickly realizes that he doesn't actually want to leave the loop. He tries to convince her to stay, saying that outside of it awaits only poverty, hunger, depression, war, and aging. Nyles also reveals that he knows about her affair with Abe, but says he doesn't care. He understands her now. Still, Sarah refuses to keep waking up each morning next to the groom who cheated on her sister. So she says goodbye to Nyles and decides to go through with her plan alone. Sarah spends her final loop joyfully watching her sister become a bride, attending the wedding with calm acceptance. When it's time for her toast, she delivers a heartfelt speech. How her younger sister has always looked out for her and how proud she is to have Taylor in her life. Then, in a quiet but firm tone, she warns Abe not to ruin her sister's life, telling him to seize this second chance to prove his loyalty. Instead of exposing him publicly, Sarah lets the ceremony continue peacefully, so Taylor's special day remains perfect. When she finishes, an elderly woman approaches her, praising it as the most beautiful wedding speech she's ever heard. Meanwhile, Nyles sits alone at the bar, drowning his sorrow in drinks, consumed by the loss of the woman he loves. But after a wake-up call from a friend, he rushes to the cave with the bartender's truck, determined to stop Sarah before she goes through with the explosion. He reaches her just in time and begs her to listen. Sarah tells him to be quick. She has only seconds before detonation to keep everything on schedule. Nyles blurts out that he's willing to blow himself up too, even die, as long as it means he doesn't have to live without her. Even if they end up trapped together in another time, it would still be worth it. Sarah finally smiles and agrees. After all, they manage to turn endless, meaningless days into something beautiful together. They step into the cave side by side. Before the explosion, Sarah confesses that she loves him too. And if they don't see each other again after this, at least he'll know their love was never one-sided. They kiss deeply, and seconds later, the blast engulfs them. Cut to Nyles and Sarah regaining consciousness, floating together in the pool at Nyles's so-called safe house. Suddenly, the homeowner returns, surprised to find them there, and tells them to get out of his pool. They exchange stunned looks. The plan worked. They've escaped the time loop. It's now November 10th. After the credits, we see Roy at the wedding reception approaching Nyles and saying he received Sarah's voice message and that her idea is brilliant. But Nyles doesn't recognize him.
Sorry.
Roy realizes
Do I
the
know
truth. They made it out. It's now his turn to follow their path and finally free himself too.